It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today.
Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill. And today, I don't even know what this episode is going to be called, if I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really know how to describe this topic. This spawned from talking about cycle syncing, which is funny because somebody who inquired about coaching just asked me if we cycle sync workouts. And I was like, no. And let me tell you
Hell no.
But essentially, we want to talk about, I guess, like trends or fads, for lack of a better word. And we're not talking like 1,200 calories, although I still think that's just a long-standing trend, but just things like shiny objects that I feel like people get distracted by with when it comes to like health, wellness, physique goals on social media. And we're focusing on like the wrong things in terms of actually seeing progress in the long run. Like there's like a lot of like biohacking things, and ice baths. People do cold plunges because it burns brown fat, but it's like, okay, but like you still have to monitor.
I'm calling this like missing the forest for the trees. Like this is the thing.
Beautiful.
And obviously
That's the title of this episode.
Yeah, we talk about, oh, these are fun new biohack things, or, oh, look at what this research article says. At the end of the day, if you are not zooming out, or again, if you're working with a professional, even more important that they are zooming out and looking big picture, right? So there's so many good examples, but like cycle syncing is one of the examples on this list where, okay, cool. Maybe you're honoring that season where your body slows down a little bit, but that's literally half of your life that you're in your luteal phase, half of your menstrual life, right? Is it worth the risk of not building muscle? No, the reward is better of building muscle than it is of the benefits you're going to get from slowing down, right? So basically zooming out and giving context to what is more important than looking at this tiny little research article on one thing or the other thing. And it's especially important when there are trends on TikTok and Instagram reels and all of this stuff that women get so hype about. And they're like, this is the new thing. Because everybody's always looking for the one thing that's going to just instantly change their results. And it's like, sorry to break it to you, but we're always going to come back to these most important things. Doing them consistently is going to yield you better long-term results than any of these flashy items.
Yeah. And when it comes to cycle syncing specifically with workouts, a lot of women we talk to are seeking physique change. But I also want to say that like, even if you're like, no, I don't want to change my physique, I'm just living life and optimal health and hormones, whatever. I still don't agree with this blanket rule across the board for every woman because yes,
for
we
anything.
have menstrual cycles, but I feel great when I lift on my period, but I don't feel great when I lift during ovulation. I feel very bloated. I'm a little bit more like blah, lethargic. Like I'm going against a lot of the rules, right? They say you should do yoga and walking and light things in your, the first couple of days of your cycle and whatever. So I don't really know the incentive for people to think that that's ideal or what it is they're actually chasing. I know cortisol is typically intertwined in there somehow that we think that's having a negative impact, but genuinely like what Jess said, what's having a negative impact is not having enough muscle on your frame, not being active enough as a human, not prioritizing the big rocks and the big things that we need to focus on.
Or appropriate recovery. Like we agree.
Yes.
That if you are stressed out all the time, your body isn't going to be happy, your hormones aren't going to be happy. But you can lift really consistently. And when we say consistently, 3-4 days a week, you don't need to work out 7 days a week. That's probably too much. But you can lift very consistently and also get plenty of rest and recovery and send your body those slow down signals and still support hormone health. Okay. We're not saying that that's not important. So yeah, cycle syncing is thing number one. I would like to throw in there, I think this is less common for the everyday person, but very common in like bodybuilding type spaces or with people who come to us and they're like, no, I'm advanced. I've been lifting forever. Setting intentional deload weeks when you are already not really a consistent athlete or a consistent lifter. So I think it's kind of a similar thing. Basically, setting rules doesn't honor your life seasons and ends up putting you in these buckets that actually don't really oftentimes serve people. So if I have a client who genuinely is insanely consistent every 8 to it depends on how what our volume looks like also, but maybe every 8 weeks or so, maybe more frequently for somebody who has more stress. We're doing some sort of deload week where we're taking some volume down, or we're not working out, we're not lifting at all, and we're just doing yoga or something. Most of the time, though, people create their own deload weeks on accident because they're like, my kids were sick, I didn't get to the gym. Oh, I went on vacation. I did this, I did that. Okay, cool. Then we don't need to build this thing in. I feel the same about cycle syncing, because with cycle syncing, it's like, okay, I might have a day where I didn't get as much sleep the night before and my workout isn't great. Cool. Maybe that's the day I take it a little bit easier. It doesn't have to be on my luteal phase, right? We want our clients listening to their bodies, but every single body is different. Every day is different. Every week is different, because there's lots of factors in life, not only our periods.
Yeah. I mean, this is like totally like sharp left example on the same topic though, but like listening to your body. So when people talk about like intuitive eating, they're like, well, I'm just listening to my body. But like I have a client recently who's in a deficit. She is so relentlessly consistent, and her biofeedback is really good in her check-ins, right? Like she's like, relationship with food is good. My hunger cues are in check. I'm sleeping well. Stress is good. All of this stuff looks aligned on my end, right? So I'm like, cool, we are cruising in this deficit. And she had this check-in and she's like, I screwed up today. Like I overate. I don't know what happened. She's like, it just, something in me felt like that's what I was supposed to do today. And then she messaged me the next day and she was like, how am I down 3 pounds? And I was like, that is like actually listening to your body, of like, my body is saying like, hey, I need this thing. Now, I'm not saying in a deficit that anytime you're hungry, that means you should eat more and still see progress. This is a very nuanced example, but like just so in tune with your body. So listening to your body doesn't mean doing whatever you're in the mood
It doesn't mean
for in that
YOLO.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So thing number 2, over-complicating your training. I think that this is a big one, again, for people who are like, no, I've worked out forever. And it's like, yeah, but how effectively are you working out? 1, 2, why? Do you know the why behind why you're changing everything up, behind why you're doing drop sets, behind why you are, I don't know, every single week progressing in different ways? Most likely to get effective outcomes, if your goal is physique oriented, you need to be changing less. Maybe we're focusing on a slightly different pattern of a squat, but we're still doing a barbell squat. Maybe we're just changing the rep range by 4. Maybe we're decreasing or increasing the rest period, or changing the tempo a little bit. These are all things that we can change that are very nuanced, that create adaptations in a super beneficial way. And they allow us to build on a skill that we're already working on. Because if every week I'm like, just do a different thing, just throw this, just throw that. Yeah, it's going to tax your body in that given workout, but you're not actually like progressing as effectively over time. And I think this is very common, especially with some of our more advanced clients that come in and they're like, yep, I'm a bodybuilder. I do this, I do that. And what ends up happening is we have them do less, and less in terms of total weekly volume. Like maybe I switch up their traditional bodybuilding splits to doing 3 full body days a week plus a deep mobility day or something. And then they end up seeing better physique progress than they've seen in a long, long time, because it's a different stimulus and we're progressing in a very specific way. More effective, even though it feels less hard overall, it's more effective. So keeping it simple, but also being strategic, obviously, with why and how we're doing every single exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's really common. And it's the typical like eat less, move more. Like people think, well, I've heard this so many times, so it has to be true, right? Like, a woman was telling me how she's like, well, I'm scared to eat more because I'm going to gain. And I'm like, well, of course you do, because you've only ever restricted calories to lose weight. And you have this perception of if I'm on, it means I'm restricting. And if I'm off, it means I'm eating more food. You've never intentionally and strategically done that thing. And it's the same thing with workouts, where it's like, well, I lost weight doing cardio in the past, so that must be the best way. And it's like, no, like what are we actually focusing on? What's the goal here? And I will say that I have a bodybuilding history. So I do have that little tendency for just liking higher volume type of lifts. But I will say that when my lifts feel more boring, where I'm like, is this really doing what I want it to do? I see way faster results, to the point where like I even had to stop doing like back workouts for a little bit because I was like, well, this is we're like not proportionate here to what I'm doing. But every time I dial back, I can lift so much heavier in my lifts, and I can do that 3 days a week and see faster results than if I'm supersetting, drop setting, doing all this high volume 5 days a week. I will feel like I'm working so hard. I'll also feel exhausted and like I can't.
And your results are not as good. Like
No,
people
I
think
don't-
that the results are better because
Yes.
it feels harder. I always use this analogy. I did not make this up. But like, it's like using a shovel to dig a hole when a front end loader is sitting right next to you. It's like, okay, you could build the foundation of the house and it not feel as hard, or you can work your ass off and it feel like you're day laboring for hours and hours and hours and get half as far. It's like that. You guys are working work smarter, not harder is what we're saying. And to plug this, because I think it is a very valuable tool, I did a build your own programming workshop. If any of you guys are interested, we probably have it linked on our website, but go ahead and comment on this or message either of us on Instagram if you guys want that. I think it's like 15 or 20 bucks, but it's a effective programming thing if you're like, I don't even know where to start. Okay, next is on our list.
Pilates.
Oh, Pilates. Okay. Pilates will get you more toned than lifting. Ha. Tone is just adding muscle and losing fat. Okay. If you look toned, it's because you have muscle to show off underneath. The way you build muscle is through progressive overload in various rep ranges with strategic increases in volume over time. There's not different types of muscle. We've covered this on prior episodes, but if you think you're going to get bulky from lifting and you're going to get toned from Pilates, you're just wrong. You're going to have a better likelihood of building muscle if you are lifting with progressive overload. Pilates might build some muscle at first when it's a new adaptation, and then at some point your body adapts to it, and now it won't build muscle anymore, and now you're just going to these workout classes because you think it's working. Now, when I say that, I want to give a caveat. For physique change, if you are going because you think I'm going to get toned, that's when I'm saying it is not the most effective. I love Pilates for my posture and for how I feel and for mobility, like for core connection. There's other value to it. Muscle building and physique or getting toned is not the value. There's a more effective way that takes less time in the gym, honestly. So again,
Also, I love Pilates. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so fun. It feels so good. It's such a good challenge for me because it's slow, but it's also like I will be in a pose and holding and there's no weight. And I'm like, this is so freaking hard. And it's because it's totally different than what I normally do. And it's, like I said, it's slower, it's mobility, it's stretching, it's flexibility, it's core strength. It's a lot of the stuff that not that I don't do those things, but I'm a lifter. Like that's
you're not going to look toned or to lose fat, because those two things it will not do.
I also want to say that I go for social reasons too. I love the people that go, and that is a totally valid reason to go to a workout class as long as you're going with that intention. I am going strictly to be social and throw some flexibility and mobility and 60 minutes of stretching and intentional breathing without a phone in my face time. That is why I go to Pilates. I had this, somebody posted in a Facebook group about this Pilates online program, and I won't name drop it, but should I do this program because I'm just not seeing the progress that I want to see with weightlifting? And I was like, whoa. With all these comments on this thread, let me clarify that, like, what you want to see. And she was like, well, I just want to look more toned. And I was like, okay, let me tell you why what you're doing is probably not working and why Pilates is not the answer. I'm not deterring you from Pilates because all these people started to attack me. I love Pilates and it changed my body. And I was like, I'm not saying that that's not the case, but it comes down to what you're adapted to. And I walked her through that and she was like, wow, this makes so much sense. I think I need to lift heavier. And I was like, great, problem solved. Go to Pilates still for fun if that's what you want to do.
Check back in 3 months and let us know how toned you look, right?
Right. So that ties into the overcomplicated programming and Pilates and everything, honestly.
Yeah. Also, let's go to the other end of that. So Pilates, I feel like, is one of those things where women, also marketing is totally capturing us on our vulnerabilities, saying you're going to get bulky, you want to look feminine, blah blah blah, and it's just a lie. On the other end, we have these programs that are like more is better, intense, like the CrossFit 7 days a week people, 75 hard. So the concept that discipline equals results is also, you're overlooking the importance of consistency and the importance of how effective is each of our lifts. What's the outcome that we're trying to achieve? What recovery is required if we're putting in this stress stimulus, because these adaptations don't take place until our body recovers from the stressor. So there's been, I can't even count the number of clients that we've had who are like, no, I work out like 6 days a week, give me more. And I'm like respectfully, let me ask, when's the last time you worked out 6 days a week? And they're like, well, I did last time I lost weight. I worked out 6 days a week. Okay. And then what happened? Well, then I kind of fell off. I haven't really done it in several months. Okay. How about let's just try this and let's see how it goes. How about for the next 6 months, we work out 3 days a week and we don't take any time off or on the wagon and we see what happens, right? Basically, what we want to do at the end of the day is we want to give the least stimulus to produce the most results, okay? We do not want to go balls to the wall with the hardest stressor possible. Yes, will you get results? Yes, but then you will also adapt to it faster, right? So we want to give the least stimulus so you're adapting to something, and as we're seeing change, great, because at some point your body's going to adapt to it. Then we can add a little more stimulus and a little more stimulus until eventually maybe we do need to take some time off or reverse diet back up or whatever, if we're talking nutrition or exercise. But regardless of the input that you give your body, eventually our body does adapt to it. So we do not want to just start off going 0 to 100.
Yeah, it's like it's so crazy. The sentence I feel like that applies so often is like correlation is not causation. Like so often we associate one thing with one outcome, and it's like, I don't know, if you went to a destination and you're like, well, I got there in 40 minutes last time because there was no traffic. And it's like, well, this time there was an accident. It was different weather. It was a different time of year. Like there's all these variables that you logically are like, duh, of course this wasn't the case the second time or whatever it is, right? But then for some reason with dieting, it's like, no, I know I lost weight because I was keto, and I know I lost weight because I did cardio, and the lifting definitely made me bulky. And it's like, no, we're totally missing the point. And when women come to me, I'm like, listen, you don't even sign up with me. Take my advice and go do it on your own for 3 months. That's it. Go do it for 3 months and you can be like, this bitch is crazy. She doesn't know what she's talking about if it doesn't work. But I am like, I would literally be like, I'll give you my house if you follow exactly what I say and absolutely nothing changes about your physique, because I am 100% confident that it would. But anyway, I feel like that's the hole that we get caught in so often, and it's a disservice to ourselves. And I'm like, no, get out, come out into the world, come to the other side and see what everything we have to offer.
The next one, so missing the forest for the trees, or TikTok trends. This could also be called TikTok trends. I don't have a TikTok, but I have a sister-in-law. I have a good friend, both of them.
Have a Jillian.
Send me, yes. Well, but I have two people in my life that I love very dearly who send me these videos of like, is this true? And I'm like, what? Use your brain. Why in the world would you think that this is true? And they're like, well, it's because it's viral right now on TikTok. And I'm like, no, everything you know about, let's rewind. Let's talk about the whys behind it. I'm glad we're texting about this because this gives me really good inspiration for podcast episodes. But it's like, oh, well, I'm just now hearing about organ supplements. I'm just now hearing about these hormone balancing supplements. Should I take it? It should lower cortisol, right? I'm just now hearing about whatever the thing is, right? I probably am not very nice to some of the MLM people who message me. I don't think it really happens that often anymore. But when I first got into training, I feel like I would get messages every single week about, have you ever heard of collagen? And I'm like, yeah, I have actually. Like, yeah, it's not some new thing that it's in the meat that I eat, or the it's in the actual food that my husband hunts, right? Like, this is not some magic fix. And the reason most of the time that people yield benefits right away is just because they're malnourished before they start taking that thing. Again, I'm not saying supplements cannot be helpful as an assist. They are a supplement. That's why they're called supplements. It should be supplemental to your diet. But a lot of times people see value from adding the protein shake or the collagen supplement or the this or the that. because they're just lacking protein to begin with. So then they increase their protein, their body comp starts to change, and then they're like, wow, this is the thing, right? So it's going back to what Jill just said about correlation versus causation. Doing the basics, adding a variety of fruits and vegetables, adding meat in your diet, adding protein. Even if you don't eat meat, add protein. Adding strength, adding sleep. Those things are going to make a huge difference to balancing your hormones before you ever try some hormone balancing supplement. Again, we're not saying that these things cannot be cherries on top, but a lot of times, if you don't have those foundations figured out and then you're trying to add that, you're not going to it's going to make the tiniest little movement versus the big changes we can make from some of these other things.
Yeah. And it's interesting, I get a lot of inquiries about gut supplements because we talk so much about gut health, and people are like, well, what's the best one to take? And I'm like, well, whatever your gut needs, right? Like somebody sent me a probiotic recently and was like, is this one that you recommend? And I said, well, I recommend it in certain scenarios, but it's very high bacillus strain. And if you go take bacillus strain, but you have an overgrowth of bacillus, you're going to feel really shitty, right? So it's all relative. And honestly, like, I used to think a probiotic was just a probiotic. Even in the best scenarios, there are ways to get probiotics from food, first of all, but there are times where supplementing, I tend to supplement mine just because, well, conversation for another day for gut health, but there are definitely scenarios where supplementing more regularly versus like one-off scenarios is beneficial. But
for all these things, not just probiotics, for all these things, again, we are not against any of these supplements. It's these supplements are it. This is the pillar of health. And it's like, what? It was a different supplement 2 weeks ago. Like now, why are you to believe that this is now some savior in your health? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, like one of the things going on right now on TikTok is like some hormone cortisol supplement or drink. I actually haven't even watched a video long enough to see what it is, but I'm like, you know what? I got to keep fighting the good fight, but I can't fight it in these comments because it's just, it's sad to see hundreds of people like, I need this. I know my cortisol is high. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to bang my head on the wall.
And your cortisol may very well be high.
Right.
But maybe you just need sleep. Maybe you need to drink less caffeine in the afternoon.
Get off your phone 5 minutes earlier before you go to sleep. It's crazy. Like people are like, I have sleep issues. Like I have insomnia. You probably don't. You probably are on your phone looking at blue light way too late or not managing your stress or whatever. Now I'm not saying
obviously
periods of life that are very high stress that we do need some extra support. I definitely have gone through periods where I needed melatonin to help re-regulate my sleep cycle. And I was like, it's too much for me to do this on my own. Like I need a supplement or I need help or I need something, but I'm also intentional about the other things where I can be. So there are definitely scenarios across the board, not just stress and cortisol, where you do need to supplement. And that's totally fine. We just genuinely, and again, we're not throwing shade at all of this stuff as a whole. It's just that make sure you're doing the other things before you think this supplement
and
is
that you
all of your
and that you understand the cost benefit ratio, right? Like again, when women are looking at it as the end all be all way to get healthy and then they're neglecting the other things, they're spending all this money like really hopeful that something's going to work, missing out. So we just want to emphasize again the more important things, because we don't want, if you're willing to dump all this money into these supplements because you feel like it and you have that fun money to play with, go for it. Like that's fine. Maybe it is a little cherry on top, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that. But we don't want you to miss the more important stuff. What do they say? Like step over dollars to pick up pennies. That's what I'm going to keep coming up with analogies for the rest of the episode. That's what this episode is called. Okay. We're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies, people.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. So outside of that, this one's probably going to grind some gears based on who I am and what I talk about and what I offer, but lab testing.
We literally just did a whole episode. If you guys want to go back a couple episodes,
want to learn about all
we did a whole episode about our hormone testing.
But lab testing is expensive information if all you're doing is getting a result. So many people are like, can you order me a Dutch test? I'm like, absolutely not. One, I don't have time. And two, what is me telling you that you have high PM cortisol, low AM cortisol, and low like estrogen, or I don't like the way your estrogen is metabolizing? What does that do for you? You just paid $400+ for me to tell you that. And now what do? you're going to say, well, what do I do? What do you recommend? What supplements? And that's where we're going wrong.
And we're going to say, okay, well, now let's look at your daily habits every single day. It's not
What
that
are
simple
your
as just adding
symptoms?
supplements
What
either.
have you been doing for the last 2
Right.
years of your life, right? There's so much that we need to look at, which is why I morally and ethically will not do that in a one-off scenario. The only time I do one-off scenarios is, and I'm not doing this right now, so if you hear this today, don't message me for this, but was a gut test because the company we partner with offers support with interpretation and protocol development. However, I still don't think that's the most beneficial thing for you because things change so rapidly. I have a client who came to me for thyroid support. She didn't want to be on medication. We made some changes. Her antibodies literally were over 500 and now they're down in the 100s. And it's only been a couple weeks. However, her TSH went up and I was like, oh shit, I'm glad we tested this. I actually want to make this change. She would have been not feeling so hot and up shit creek without a paddle if we weren't continuously working together on this until she got to a stable place with that. And I can't stress that enough. I think we think if this is the protocol I'm given, anytime I have bloating, I can just go back to this protocol. And it's like, you could have a totally different
protocol's
problem
different.
now.
Yeah.
That
That happened to me right now.
Yes.
Like I have a SIBO overgrowth right now. A few years ago, I had an H. pylori overgrowth. In either case, the reason I have both of these things is because I don't sleep enough and my stress is too high. So my gut lining is compromised, right? The behavioral piece, I know what it is that I need to work on and I'm working on it. But the treatment, I'm putting treatment in air quotes, but the solution to either of these things in terms of diet protocol, in terms of supplement protocol, looks very different. So yeah, if you are a client of ours and you are interested in further testing, a lot of times what I will tell women is like, please, please, please just try to trust the process and be in a successful muscle building phase with us where you're north of 2,000 calories for at least 4 months. And let's just see what happens. Because I've had women who are perimenopausal who are like, oh my gosh, all my symptoms went away. I had a woman whose doctor took her off of thyroid and blood pressure medicines, and we hadn't even gone into a deficit. She hadn't lost any weight, but just from adding strength. So a lot of times these things do heal themselves through the basics, which again is like, why spend extra money out of pocket on tests if we're still going to say to do the basics now, just plus some, right? So
now if you want the testing and you're still willing to do all the basics, cool.
Great.
If you're down and you just want to make that investment and get some information so that you have a baseline, full support of that information. I love that. But do you want to spend $300 to $1,200, depending on what test you're getting, only
just
to do
information
that I'm going to do with you regardless as a client, right? So that's generally why we direct clients in the manner that we do. It's not because we don't think you're capable of a protocol or that we don't.
And we're not like gatekeeping it either.
Right.
That's like Jill said, we have clients who day one are like, that's fine. Order it for me. I want to see all the stuff. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But you've still been eating 1,200 calories based on everything that I see. We need to get your calories up first before I'm going to say we should do some restrictive protocol. It's not healthy. Okay. Testing, missing the dollars for the pennies. This is a shout out to Mr. Tim Sheps. If you're listening, he's never going to listen to this podcast. That's my father, everyone.
Loves us.
Breath work, hyperventilating, Wim Hof method, ice baths, sauna. I don't know. What else can we do? Holding your breath underwater for as long as possible. Oxygen, hydrogen water. All the biohack things. My question is, okay, Dad, I see your research. I believe your research. I'm looking at it.
All proven, totally.
There are benefits to each and every single one of these things. Have you started lifting weights yet? Well, no, I'm going to get to it. Okay, are we lifting weights? Are we hitting our minimum? Are we hitting our optimal protein intake requirement? Are we getting enough sleep? And are we reducing our alcohol consumption? Those are the 4 questions I'm going to ask every single person before I say, yeah, go ahead and add all those things, because your time will be better spent in the gym, lifting weights, adding protein, sleeping, and hydrating.
I used to fall into this pigeonhole, and let me tell you the secret to my success at everything in life. And this is tooting my own horn because I take action very rapidly. I get just enough information to move forward. And I'm like, I'll figure the rest out as I go. We get paralyzed about collecting information to get all of our ducks in a row and make everything perfect, how long are you going to think about doing the thing before you just do the thing, right? Like, you're like, well, I don't have time for weightlifting. I don't have time for this. Okay, well, you've just spent the last however many weeks, months, whatever, looking up the best way to optimize your hormones, but you're not doing any of those things. I truly think, and I'll bring up GLP-1s in a second on this topic for today, but I truly think people would, like, when we talk about coaching, people are like, sometimes it's too big of an investment, or I can't afford this or whatever. But if I had a thing like GLP-1, something that solved all of your problems, right? I dangled this carrot in your face and I was like, you're going to lose weight. You're going to look leaner. You're going to sleep better. And you're going to have the best energy you've ever had in your life. But it's $10,000. I guarantee every single person
find the $10,000
would find a way to get 10 grand to pay for that solution, right? But as soon as I say, hey, weightlifting, it's going to take a couple months. We're going to have to shift you away from X, Y, and Z and do a little more.
You have to do the inputs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge, right? You all of a sudden don't have time, don't have money, don't have whatever. But if I was like, yo, 3 months guaranteed, 100% without a doubt, you'll have the best physique of your life and you'll never diet again. They'd be like, oh, okay. You're right. I think I actually do have the money, right?
I actually love that. We have some people who have reached out and inquired about coaching that say, well, I'll sign up if you can promise me results. And Jill says, one, we have a wait list, like, get back in line. If you don't want this, we're not trying to talk you into it. We really want people who are committed and ready to change, because we're not here to change you. We're here to guide you. But also, she'll say that to them. No, I can't guarantee you results, because what happens if you sign up and you literally change nothing? We've had people like that in the past where it's like, oh, this program doesn't work, coaching doesn't work. And it's like, well, just because you have a coach doesn't mean something's going to change. You have to actually implement the changes that we're talking you through, right?
It's the same thing where, like, you're paying for a coach and you think you get results. You have MyFitnessPal on your phone, so you think you're tracking your food. Maybe you are tracking your food, but you're not losing weight. And it's like, okay, you didn't actually change your eating habits. Glad you have some awareness around them, but you're just tracking the same shit you've been eating for the last 6 years that you told me got you fat and out of shape and unhealthy. So just tracking it, like, good step one, but like, you actually have to follow something and change it. So it's the same, it's just a different version of you thinking about doing the thing. You think because you paid that's your leg up, that's your foot in the door, that's your investment. It's like, no, you have to do something with the investment that you made. And it happens more often than
it happens quite frequently, where it's surprising.
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like those are the big ones. Are there any other TikTok trends? I'm not on TikTok. That's a big one. That's a big one.
We think it's a great tool in the toolbox.
In the right context. I'm going to always give a little disclaimer, in the right context, because if somebody has been chronically dieting and doesn't get enough protein and doesn't strength train, I will always talk them through why I don't think that they're a good candidate.
Yeah. It's all the same things still apply. We still want you to lift weights. We still think diet periodization and not endlessly living in a deficit until you hit your goal is important. We still think habits and sustainability and balancing your lifestyle, all of those things are important. We have clients who, when it's time for a deficit, if they choose to use that tool, full support with them, right?
Well, also at low doses, not 2.5, 5, 10 milligrams. Like, okay, go on. Yes. I'm going to keep interrupting with context, because I think the context here is really important.
No, I agree. But we're still, just like we would tell somebody not to diet or be in a deficit too long, it's the same thing with GLP-1. We don't want you to just be on it forever. Yes, we have clients who microdose it, but they also work their calories back up to 2,400 and lift weights and sleep well. And then they increase the dose if they want to later for fat loss. That's using it responsibly. And I think it's very misunderstood. And I know that this conversation pisses some people off, because I read the arguments online all the time of like, I have these health conditions and GLP-1 saved my life. I'm not saying that it didn't. I'm just saying that we still have to eat protein, eat nutrient-dense foods, move our bodies, lift weights, and take care of our bodies.
If we don't, we're going to end up with the same metabolic challenges that we would if we severe dieted, malnourished ourselves and lost muscle mass. So I think a lot of people, and I was one of these people, who would talk about like, oh no, don't take it. It's going to make you lose disproportionate amounts of muscle mass. the more and more I have learned about it and read about it, I think that might be true if people take too much. The more I read about it, though, I think it's simply just like any other deficit modality where the people who are losing the muscle mass, it's because they're not lifting weights and it's because they're not eating enough protein. They're not getting sleep. They're not doing the basics and then they're malnourished. Guess what? Your metabolism's going to slow down just like all the people from The Biggest Loser. You're going to lose a lot of weight. Then you're going to gain back more than what you had before because you slow down your metabolism severely and you never put on any muscle mass. So, again, we're missing the most important thing. So, okay, is that the last on our list? I want to go over like, okay, what are the most important? What actually does move the needles? What are the dollars? What are the big rocks we want to turn over?
Yeah, let's do it. Fasting was the only other one, but
fasting, that's another one for Tim. Fasting. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Love it. It's great in context. You
and
still just
again,
go ahead.
This is one I've done before. Me and Brett will do like, I'll lump me in with him. He's more disciplined than me. He'll do like 72-hour water only fasts every quarter to like reset his system. And I'll eat cheesesteaks in front of him. And he's just like a disciplined maniac. I will do a fast every now and then. And really it's to reset my taste buds and like it helps bring psychological awareness to my mindless eating patterns because I start to realize how often I'm eating out of habit. Now there are benefits in terms of autophagy. So basically our cells turning over and creating healthy new cells, our body healing itself. But fun fact, building muscle and just having a normal caloric deficit every now and then does the same thing. So what ended up happening is I think a lot of people got all hype on this fasting train because some guy won Nobel Prize for the research on autophagy. And then we realized, wow, all these people are missing out on muscle mass, which is actually more important for longevity. So because they were fasting, they were not getting enough protein. And then they ended up losing muscle mass, which again, longevity factor, that is one of the biggest things tied to longevity and overall health. So again, you don't want to step over these important things for health to pick up a little thing for health, right? And that's kind of where I fall there. Again, I'm not against it for a specific use. I'm not against it as a tool in a deficit. I have a client who she in the past had really struggled with binge eating and she's pre-diabetic and stuff. She does a 1-day fast once a week when she's in a deficit because she's like, you know what? It allows me to manage a social life and go over on my calories the other days. It doesn't lead her to binge and restricting. And okay, it works for her, right? Again, I'm not against it. We just also need to focus on the more important thing, which is not losing muscle mass while in a caloric deficit.
Yes. Amazing. All the same things that I would say in terms of like, a lot of people think it's more fat burning than just being in a deficit, or there's something inherently magical and fat burning about fasting. And we're often just using it as it's a tool that we can use, and it's often used in the wrong context. So what can we do, or what things should you be doing if you want to lose fat, change your physique, tone up, sleep better, have more energy, balance your hormones, lower your cortisol, fix your thyroid, balance your gut, anything, all of those things. If you want to do those, Jessica, please.
Strength training and strength training effectively, not just glorified cardio and doing circuits. Okay. So lift heavy, take some rest in between so that you're able to lift heavy. Make every set hard. The workout doesn't have to feel hard all in all. You don't have to have your heart rate up the whole workout. You don't have to burn a certain amount of calories. Every set though, every working set should feel like, holy crap, I don't even know if I could get another 1 or 2 reps. So 1, strength training. 2, building muscle and improving your base metabolic rate. So obviously we just said strength training, but also building your base metabolic rate, which muscle is a huge impactor on that. Muscle is expensive tissue to carry around. Other things that impact our base metabolic rate, though, are stress. If you are chronically dieting, your metabolism kind of downregulates. If you are stressed out all the time and your cortisol is chronically high, your metabolism downregulates. Basically, your body is like, hey, we're just trying to keep the lights on and survive here. And fat is an easily stored way for us to have energy for future us if our body thinks we're going to die, if we are in survival mode. So improve your BMR and it'll make your life easier. Sleep is another big one for that. Sleep is like our ultimate stress hack and recovery modality. So improving sleep. 4, consistency in your nutrition. rather than gimmicks or, yeah, I was all in and then I fell off. If it's something you cannot be consistent with for the rest of your life, it is probably not the best modality for you. If you're like, no, I always see results when I cut carbs. And then it's like, okay, but what happens when you add the carbs back in? Oh, well, then I probably gain back. Okay. If you think you can cut carbs for the rest of your life and keto's the life for you, go for it. But most people can't. So being consistent, specifically or especially with your protein and with your whole, colorful, nutrient-dense foods, fruits, vegetables, things that look like the plant they grew on. And protein is not just a bodybuilder thing, right? It is the building block of every single tissue in our body, our nails, our hair, our organs, all the amino acids from protein physically heal our body. It is not just muscle for aesthetics. This is literally for longevity and for life. I didn't touch on this in the strength training topic, but protein and strength training go together with this. Bone density, especially because a lot of our audience are women or women in their 40s and 50s where your bone mass at some point starts to go down naturally because of hormonal changes. Heavy, like powerlifting style, low rep range strength training is enormous for improving bone density and preventing osteoporosis. And then last but not least, because I've already mentioned it probably 40 times, recovery and sleep. You cannot biohack your way out of sleep. I will be the first to say that that is why some of my lab numbers suck, honestly. Like I have little babies that keep me up. I have terrible sleep habits. I'm dialed with my workouts and my food. But it really can cause metabolic problems and issues and insulin
Even if you're doing
resistance
everything
and
else right.
even if you're doing everything else right, if your sleep is terrible, if you're staring at your phone and you're overstimulated, you're over-caffeinated, if you drink wine because you think it helps you wind down, that interrupts your quality sleep. There are so many of these things where people don't think they're stressed out because they're like, no, I'm relaxed. I'm having a glass of wine and I'm watching Netflix. It's like, sorry to break it to you, but these are stimuluses going into your brain. And they're preventing that deep REM recovery type sleep that really optimizes our metabolism and our hormone health. So that's a big one. The more you train, the more recovery you need also. If you are somebody who loves to train 7 days a week, like there's Olympic athletes train 2 a days, 3 a days, 7 days a week, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But how much time do you have in a day? Most people are not able to level up to that in terms of the recovery required to maintain that level of activity. So usually it's just easier to dial back the level of intensity.
So I'd like to point out that athletes like that, generally speaking, are training for performance and not physique.
1000%, 1000. But even to not have injuries at that level,
No, totally.
they're sleeping 9-10 hours a night. They're doing cupping, they're doing sauna, they're doing massages, right? They're doing every recovery modality possible and getting tons of sleep.
And hours. Yeah.
So again, if you're somebody who enjoys that level of intensity, great. More movement is better, but more movement without equal recovery starts to become a chronic stress problem in our body.
Also, you just said this, and I feel like this is one that maybe wasn't on my list for a long time, even when I was air quotes doing all the right things. You said the more you train, the more you need to recover. The more stress that you have, the more that you need to balance that stress. Now, sometimes people are like, well, my job is very demanding. My boss is crazy. I have 4 kids in sports. I'm not saying that you need to hire a nanny to take your kids to your sports while you meditate for 2 hours. But what I am saying is try within your day to find 5 minutes to just sit quietly, touch the grass. I think that like saying having fun is a very general thing, but I think that it is so important to connect and play and be social and have fun. Life just, sometimes we just take it too seriously and we get so focused, especially around weight loss. Like it makes me so sad that it just generally consumes the minds of a lot of women. Like every thought, every action, every bite of food, every clothing we put on, every event that we go to is surrounded around how does my body look? Our goal and the reason that we train and coach the way that we do is because we want to make sure that you get to a point that you can live your life. I don't want to just get you a result and then you walk away in the same position that you came to me in with a not so great metabolism, still a shitty relationship with food, still obsessed with the scale going down. Our job and our focus is to help you break those patterns so that you can live your life without obsessing in that manner. And I cannot stress that enough. And I think that we underestimate how long this process will actually be. And we tend to overestimate our expectations in terms of what you get from your, you're like, you diet for 2 weeks and you're like, well, I don't fit in the pants I want to fit in. And it's like, dude, you've been dieting for 10 years. Like 2 weeks. Are you joking? You think that you've earned that title, and it takes time. So to actually like evolve as a human and be someone that embodies that life, it takes time, and you have to learn to have fun and enjoy the process along the way and just not take shit so seriously. And I was the person who ate my protein, ate my calories, dieted correctly, progressive overload, slept, right? But I wasn't having fun in my life. And I was like, none of this is actually worth it. It's like people who have a ton of money, right? Well, this isn't fun if I'm not enjoying it with somebody, or I don't even have anything to spend it on, right? It's like, why bother having those things? So I think that's important and wildly underrated for health and physique and everything in between.
And like social connection, this is not a fitness topic, but social connections and your network of people and relationships is like one of the number one correlated factors to a long life. So when you're talking about fun, it's also like, okay, call a friend, hang out with somebody you love, spend time with the people that matter, because that is a health factor. That is not just a fun factor. That is actually really, really important in a quality life.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody just actually asked me a question on my Instagram stories the other day of like, do you find it hard to make new friends in a new city? And I was like, no, actually, you definitely have to put yourself out there. But like, I exchange numbers with a girl in the sauna at the gym. I go to Pilates because I like to meet people there. I go places where there are people that enjoy the same things that I do. If you're like, I want people to hike with, go hike, because guess what's going to be there? All the other people that hike, right? Like, go to those places, go to those types of events, but you keep going to the bar on Friday night and wondering why you have no friends that want to hike. And it's like, hello, you're putting yourself in the wrong circle and in the wrong room. So, and
you don't need a huge social network. It's quality, not quantity, right? Like for me, I'm like, no, I don't have time. Like, I love you. I love people. I don't have time for new friends, because my people are my family. Like I spend time with the people who are most important to me, and I'm at capacity, right? Like that's how I feel. But guess what? Those relationships are so important.
So high quality. Mason, literally, my 12-year-old literally said to me, how come grown-ups don't have a lot of friends? And I was like, I'm not sure if I should be offended by this question or not. But I explained to him that like when you're younger and you have less responsibilities, it's just like fun, play, all these things. And we do have a lot more on our plate. So I make sure that when I do have fun and spend time somewhere, I want it to be with people that I enjoy and I respect, and it's mutual and we like the same things and have fun. So evaluate and audit your circle. This is like totally off topic for today.
This is not on our list at all, but we're going rogue here.
But I think it's important for just overall health and quality of life. Truly, I think it can elevate your health, fitness, everything if you do that.
Yep. Cool deal. That's it for today. Whoop, whoop.
Everyone, enjoy. Hope you like this episode. See you next time.
Bye.